This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, eCoffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Kelley, who is the Director of Digital Marketing at Grayson with us. Hey, Kelley, how's it going?
I'm great, Rame. How are you?
Doing well. Kelley, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started and how did you land up in the marketing space? And also a bit about Grayson Clothiers. What is your core business? What are your kind of product, your niche, your market, and then we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, sure. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me. My career actually started in a relatively different direction. When I was in grad school quite a bit of time ago, I wanted to actually be in crisis management. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the show Scandal. I was obsessed with that show. Kerry Washington, who played the role Olivia Pope, that was like my idol. So I had this idea at the time that I was going to go into businesses or working with entrepreneurs on helping them like fix their crisis and elevate their reputation. I even wrote my thesis on it, definitely thought that was the direction I was going in. And then somehow I ended up in marketing in the beauty industry. I started my career at a very established beauty brand called Tweezerman. They sold, head to toe beauty tools, definitely like the luxury kind of beauty tool market. They were really well known in both wholesale and mass and premium retail, but their digital business was a really small piece of their ecosystem at the time. It also was a time where digital wasn't obviously as much of a need to have as it started to be. So I started in a pretty entry-level role, worked with a lot of different departments, kind of got to see everything, how all the pieces worked. And then I was given the opportunity to actually take the reins on their digital business and help grow it. And within the 8 years I was there, we went from taking this what felt like this little baby and growing it into what kind of became like a beast by the time I had left and what I believe it still is. So we went from shooting content in the parking lot to having these really high touch photo shoots with beauty professionals. And we rolled out a loyalty program, influencer programs. And it was a really amazing thing to be part of something that started so small and became so prevalent, not even being a part of that growth, but getting to be a part of so many moving pieces. And I think that's what really made me feel, I guess it got me kind of obsessed with marketing. After almost a decade there, I left for a very short period of time. I ended up at a B2B business and very quickly realized that I much prefer marketing to consumers versus a business. So that's how I ended up at Grayson. I've been here for 4 years. For those who don't know, Grayson is a premium golf and lifestyle apparel brand. So we're primarily cater to the men's market, but we also have women's and youth. I oversee all of our digital marketing. So both our growth and retention strategies. My main focus is email, SMS, app marketing. And I also, as of recently, I oversee our members only.
Kelley, you have worked across brand, CRM, e-commerce, and omnichannel. How do you prioritize, retention versus acquisition at a premium apparel brand?
Yeah. So I don't really look at I don't really look at retention and acquisition as competing priorities. I think for a premium brand, they have to work together. But I do believe retention has to be the foundation. Premium brands don't really just win by having more customers. They win by having the right ones. They win by customers who understand their brand, who consistently show up, who are going to spend more deeply over time, and then ultimately are going to eventually become advocates. Acquisition is obviously very important. You have to continuously be bringing people into your world. But if you're only acquiring customers who respond to discounts and you're not really a discount brand, or you're only acquiring customers who don't really connect with the product, your brand story, your community, then acquisition gets very expensive. And it's also kind of a path that's hard to retain or hard to sustain, rather. For me, retention is really what I emphasize, working to protect that customer relationship, deepen it. So, that means having a strong CRM, having very intentional and thoughtful lifecycle journeys. making
Uh,
sure all the pieces connect, infusing loyalty and personalization in the moments that really matter, because acquisition is going to keep bringing people into your brand, but the retention is what's essentially going to determine if they belong there long term. And that long term relationship is really where that value is built between a brand and a customer.
Lovely to kind of, talk to marketing people and them referring to retention being so important because in marketing, we kind of talk about, fresh marketing channels, getting in new clients and new leads so much, right? And you cannot really afford to have a leaking bucket at any point. It's quite
Mhm.
refreshing to hear, marketing people talk about the retention and giving so much importance to that. So, what revenue keep impacting KPI do you personally watch, that most digital leaders kind of ignore?
Yeah. So I think most digital leaders, at least I would hope, especially in the email marketing realm, are paying attention to list growth. But I'm not sure how many are actually paying attention to like net of churn. So how many customers are actually falling off. And it's very easy to look at your total list size and month over month and see that you're growing. But if you're not also paying attention to the amount of customers that are dropping off, I think that you're kind of missing the full picture. For us too, especially, and a lot of brands do this, we do offer an incentive when you sign up for email. We offer 15%
Yeah.
off. When you do that, you're naturally going to be getting a group of people who only want the discount and then they're going to unsubscribe. I think that's just the reality of it. So, what I do care about a lot and what I think leaders do have to make sure they're paying attention to is like, are you actually growing beyond that? Because if churn is high, it could point to a number of different things. Are you over messaging? Maybe you're over segmenting or you're not segmenting to the right people. It could be a content, a site issue. Maybe it's dropping your list is dropping off because they're not really feeling value past that first touch. So at that point, it kind of starts to become a revenue conversation, not really a list conversation. So if your email list, especially since it's such a massive channel, if it's not like continuously compounding, then your teams are just working so hard to pretty much stay flat.
And how are you integrating AI tools, into your workflow automation without sacrificing your, kind of brand voice consistency there?
Yeah. So Grayson is a product led brand. At our core, we are storytellers, we're community builders, we're curators. So we're very intentional about keeping taste and storytelling human led.
Mhm.
AI for us is never going to dictate our creative vision or like how we're going to show up as a brand, how our voice is being shaped, but we do allow it to help us. It supports us. It supports our workflows. So one way we're using it is to help get better at reporting. Our teams are not as lean as they used to be, but there are so many different things going on at a given time. And there's so many things to be paying attention to, so many metrics to be looking at. So we have used AI to definitely help dive a little bit deeper into our reporting that we don't always have the bandwidth to do. We've had it help with briefing, especially when there's so many ideas and legs to campaigns. It's definitely helped like structure thoughts and disseminate information internally much better. One cool way we're actually leveraging it right now is our content team is using Claude coding to build out this like paid media hub essentially. So
Mhm.
right now how we work with our agency on our paid media ads is we design everything in Figma. We then download the ads, upload it to a Google Drive. From there, we're categorizing everything by month, channel, campaign, category. Then it's all getting, a line item in a Google sheet where we're then adding in the copy, the headline, where we're sending the ad to. It's a very organized process, but it's manual. It's taking up our team's time tremendously. So they're working on this tool where basically now we'll be able to sync our ads straight from Figma into this hub. It organizes all of our ads, all of our copy. It puts naming conventions to everything so it's easily identifiable. And then it also adds these basically like a phased timeline that shows at what stage of the process is the ad created in. Does it need copy? Is it finalized and ready to go live? And then I believe they're actually trying to have it be where it will sync to Meta. So then our paid media can take over from there. I
Mhm.
cannot speak to the success of this yet because I only just saw like a beta version of it the other day. But it is something that our team is doing to just take away some of that friction and give us our time back.
Lovely, lovely. But what is your favorite AI platform tool that you're using regularly these days, Kelly?
Me personally or professionally?
I mean, yeah, personally, professionally, your favorite AI tool.
Yeah, so I actually just recently got introduced to Replit,
Okay.
which I don't know if exactly how to explain it because I think it does a lot of different things, but you can basically create experiences. So I actually have a side business. I have a supper club experience here on Long Island. So it's basically monthly dinner parties, pop up dinner parties that are meant for strangers to get together and connect. So I was
Mm.
toying around with Replit to create this like password protected experience where people can kind of get on a wait list and find out about future events. And it's just a really amazing way to kind of bring your creative vision to life that you'd ultimately have to pay someone for, or it would take you like months to build. So that's something that I've been really excited about on a, I guess, personal level.
Lovely, lovely. All right, email marketing is one of your, kind of core strengths, right? So it still drives massive revenue. What advanced life cycle segmentation tactic you're using, or you feel is currently being underutilized?
I would say an underutilized life cycle area would probably be that window between the first and the second purchase.
Mm.
Brands, I think, focus a lot on acquisition and then they sort of jump to like very broad retention. But that second purchase is where a customer can really become a customer. One of the things we're doing, our triggered flows work really well, they perform really well. One of the things we're doing is we're working on building out more thoughtful post purchase journeys based on products that our customers bought. And we're starting right now really just with top 10, like men's and women's products. We might throw some youth styles in there that have performed really well over the last year. And then we're sending post-purchase emails if a customer purchased that product that
Mhm.
educate them on how to care for it. It gives them styling tips. There'll be that, of course, natural like upsell, cross-sell, recommending products that complement the style. So for example, we have a program for men's called the Montauk program. It
Mhm.
consists of a trouser, a jogger, and a short. There are best-selling bottoms. There are number one entry point style that people usually discover and purchase when they, become familiar with Grayson. It's also a style that people continuously come back to purchase in other colors. So one of the things we're doing is we're working on this flow where shortly after they purchase one of the Montauk styles, they'll get an email that explains how to care. It's a fabric that's sourced from Italy. So we're going to
Mhm.
explain here's how to care for for this style, how to basically extend the longevity of this investment you made in your wardrobe because it is a higher price point. We plan to share some styling tips. We have a lot of professional golfers that wear these joggers or these trousers. So a lot of men always kind of like to see that they're wearing something that a professional golfer wears. And then we're going to naturally add in those products that really complement that piece. So instead of this being like that general cross sell where you're like, hey, you bought this. So, like, why don't you take a look at this? It's actually this experience that they're getting.
And how do you approach personalization, in this world of AI, wherein it kind of, everything is so over automated these days, right? So that it kind of feels artificial if you are the end customer or the end client. So how do you keep that balance going?
I think it comes down the line between the two comes down to whether it feels intentional and thoughtful or mechanical. I'm
Mm.
sure, especially with AI booming, like you've run into a brand or an experience where you just right away were like, this is AI. And it just
Yeah,
felt really inauthentic. We
yeah.
try to avoid personalization that feels really like surface level. And focus more on behavior and intent. So, is this going to create a better experience for our customer? One way that we're doing this is we recently created this dynamic landing page where it looks at the customer's behavior, how they're interacting on site, what they're purchasing, and it in real time recommends products it thinks that the customer will enjoy. So if you were to click that link, you're going to get a very different experience than I would. And what we're
Mm.
doing is we're infusing that into our SMS campaigns on occasion to
Right.
create, we're very curated with SMS as it is, but instead of sending that broad, campaign moment, we're now curating this message that says, hey, like these are personalized picks that we've chosen for you. And it ties back to just that in the moment relevance that the customer is really looking for.
And most brands, celebrate open rates, click rates, and all that stuff, right? But what is the real metric for you, that tells you whether the retention program is working or just making noise?
Would say so this is a metric I admittedly only recently started paying attention to a lot more is revenue per recipient. So the average revenue generated from each individual who opened up one of your marketing email campaigns. It
Mhm.
becomes, I think, really easy when you're a digital leader and you're doing so much at a given time to always just pay attention to the top line metrics and sort of check the box. Okay, like our open rates are healthy. We are happy with the revenue that email generated. Our click rate was decent, but the people that clicked converted. And it's easy to kind of just check off that box. But when you're looking at revenue per recipient, you're actually looking at like how efficient that email was. So did we reach that performance through relevance or through volume? And I think when you're looking at that, it allows you just to see how efficient your email is working. Are you sending the right message to the right audience, or are you only getting there by increasing the amount of sends? And
Mhm.
when you're looking at that more closely, it's also kind of indicating whether your CRM strategy is working. We're trying to, even when the days get super busy, pay attention to that to make sure we're continuously offering value and just getting the message in front of the right customer.
Hey, we hope you're enjoying the coffee and the conversation so far. This show is powered by Digital Web Solutions, and if you've ever wondered how the biggest brands actually build authority, this is it. DWS has a massive network of over 250,000 publishers, real sites that help you rank on Google, and more importantly, stay visible in AI search. It's the heavy lifting most teams just can't do on their own. As a thank you for listening, they're offering an exclusive free strategy call just for our eCoffee listeners. It's a great way to map out your authority plan for 2026. Just click the link below to book yours and see how they can help scale your brand. All right, now let's get back to the show.
And app push notifications, when done right, can be one of the most kind of intimate retention touch points, right? That a
Mhm.
brand can kind of actually strategize. How do you design cadence and content so every notification feels something worth opening? I mean, as a end consumer, I'm getting so many of these notifications. Why should I open yours versus any other brand?
Don't fully agree that app push is the most intimate way to connect with your consumer.
What is that?
I actually still feel like SMS wins at that. I feel like
Okay.
customers or people in general, you're so much more selective who you give your number to than the amount of, apps you download on your phone that also most of the time have like notifications on by default.
Yeah.
And maybe I am biased just because our app is actually only a year old. So SMS is still a more intimate channel for us. But a big focus for us right now is making sure that the Grayson app experience is distinct from the website. And that's become more of a priority for us this year as we've like learned a lot about how the app experience performs for us, making sure that it's just not a copy and paste of our website and that people are essentially downloading it to get something they can't elsewhere. And we kind of learned this the hard way when over the last year, the app platform that we work with was basically telling us send 3 to 4 pushes every week, continuously drive traffic to your app. But what we
Yeah.
were realizing was like that single product push or that category push, like hoodies of the season, was not really driving much
Mhm.
engagement or revenue. What's also really interesting is when we push last chance for sale on our app, pretty much without default, like without fault, does $0 every time. But if we push final
Yeah.
hours for sale on email or SMS, that tends to be one of like our top revenue driving campaigns of a promotional period. So
Mhm.
what we've learned is that our app consumer does not want what they can open in email, SMS, what they can get on site. They want things like exclusive product that's only available to them. They want early access. So that's really what we've started focusing more on, not just with the experience, but with also our push notification strategy. We kind of are starting to adopt the mindset. Whereas if this is not a moment that's different, if this is not a moment that's going to actually feel excited to this consumer based on all of the data we've learned, then it might not really be worth sending.
And talking about multiple touch points, AI is starting to touch every part of the retention stack now. Where do you see it genuinely adding value in email, SMS, and loyalty specifically? Where do you think, human judgment will always need to stay in the loop? There is so much of noise around AI, you know, we're still forgetting. I mean, I hope the market is are not, but at times businesses kind of think of it in a way that the final decision to make that purchase, be it a product, be it a service, is still happening in the human brain, right? That's the end purchaser of your product or a service. So, how do you ensure that the human judgment will always need to stay in the loop?
So, I guess to answer the first part of the question, I've been really interested in conversational AI for SMS. So, and I don't mean like that. There's some vendors out there that it kind of feels like it's this white glove concierge experience. So, I could basically be interacting and saying, like, in the example of Grayson, hey, I'm going on a golf trip this weekend. The weather is really not looking great, but it's going to be warm. Do you have any like lightweight jackets you can recommend that are also like waterproof? And
Mhm.
the AI can respond with product recommendations, but it also takes it a step further. It could ask like, "Well, what's your favorite color?" And maybe we have a jacket that will suit your taste. And then from there it just layers onto the conversation and eventually you can kind of check out right out of SMS. I love that because I think that especially in retention, it allows the customer to get what they want a little more faster, easier, more intuitively rather than like exploring a navigation menu, having to filter your PLPs. It just gets them to what they want a little bit quicker and in kind of a fun way where I feel like humans like that human touch needs to always stay intact would be, I mean, A, what I said in the beginning, keeping taste, storytelling, brand vision intact. I don't think AI will understand your brand nearly as well as your employees do. But I also think there's a level of customer service that needs to stay human led. And maybe that's a controversial thought, but I think especially with AI, human connection is going to become more important to people than ever before. And
100%.
when you have an issue with a brand, you want to be able to be dealt with by a human. You want to be understood by a human. You want that experience to be resolved in a way that doesn't feel so automated. And maybe that might not apply for every brand, but when you're a premium brand like Grayson and you do pride yourself on the quality of your products and your experience, having that level of human led, like that touch point it can go a long way. And I think that going back to what we were saying in the beginning is really what can turn a first time customer or a second time customer that might have an issue with your brand into a lifelong one.
Lovely, lovely, Kelly. This has been a great conversation. Now, for our young listeners, young marketers who are starting out on their journey, right? You have been in the space for quite some time now. If you were to share one piece of advice to young marketers today, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I would say this is going to sound so corny, but my professor in grad school had said to me something that I will really never forget is that the day you stop learning is the day you become obsolete. And I think in a world now where it is so digital focused, it is so evolving, there's so many moving pieces at once. AI is booming. You cannot stay stagnant. You have to continuously push yourself to learn, to test, to evolve. And I think that's a really um it's a must have as a marketer.
All right, push yourself, keep evolving is the message, right? Perfect, Kelly. This has been a great conversation. Once again, thank you
Likewise.
so much for taking out time to do this with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ron May. It was great to be here.